The East Coast Main Line is a 393-mile-long railway link between London and Edinburgh via Peterborough, Doncaster, Wakefield, Leeds, York, Darlington and Newcastle, electrified along the whole route. Services north of Edinburgh to Aberdeen and Inverness use diesel trains. The main franchise on the line is operated by Virgin Trains East Coast. The route forms a key artery on the eastern side of Great Britain and is broadly paralleled by the A1 trunk road. It links London, the southeast and East Anglia, with Yorkshire, the northeast regions and Scotland. It also carries key commuter flows for the north side of London. It is important to the economic health of several areas of England and Scotland. It also handles cross-country, commuter and local passenger services, and carries heavy tonnages of freight traffic. Route definition and description: the ECML forms part of Network Rail's strategic Route G, which comprises 6 separate lines. The main line between London King's Cross and Edinburgh Waverley stations, via Stevenage, Peterborough, Grantham, Newark Northgate, Retford, Doncaster, York, Darlington, Durham, Newcastle, Morpeth, Alnmouth, Berwick-upon-Tweed and Dunbar. The line crosses the Anglo-Scottish border at Marshall Meadows Bay. The Doncaster branch of the Wakefield line, between Doncaster and Leeds, via Wakefield Westgate. The Northern City line from Finsbury Park to Moorgate. And, the Hertford Loop line from Alexandra Palace to Stevenage. The branch line to North Berwick, the Dunbar Loop. The core part of the route is the main line between King's Cross and Edinburgh, with the Hertford Loop used for local and freight services and the Northern City line only used on weekdays for inner suburban services. The route is ELR's ECM1, ECM9. History: the line was built by 3 railway companies, each serving their own area, but with the intention of linking up to form the through route that became the East Coast Main Line. From north to south they were, the North British Railway, from Edinburgh to Berwick-upon-Tweed, completed in 1846, the North Eastern Railway from Berwick-upon-Tweed to Chatham, the Great Northern Railway from Chatham to King's Cross, completed in 1850. When first completed, the GNR made an end-on connection at Askerton, famously described by the GNR's chairman as a ploughed field 4 miles north of Doncaster, with the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, a short section of which was used to reach the NER at Nottingley. In 1871, the route was shortened. NER opened a direct line which ran from an end-on junction with the GNR, at Chatham, just south of Askerton to Selby and then direct to York. Realising that through journeys were an important part of their business, the companies established special rolling stock in 1860 on a collaborative basis. It was called the East Coast Joint Stock. In 1923 the 3 companies were grouped into the London and North Eastern Railway. This later became part of British Railways in 1948. Numerous alterations to short sections of the original route have taken place, the most notable being the opening of the King Edward VII Bridge in Newcastle upon Tyne in 1906 and the Selby diversion, built to bypass anticipated mining subsidence from the Selby coalfield and a bottleneck at Selby Station. The Selby diversion was opened in 1983 and diverged from the original ECML at Templehurst Junction, north of Doncaster, and joined the Leeds to York line at Colton Junction southwest of York. The ECML has been the backdrop for a number of famous rail journeys and locomotives. The line was worked for many years by Pacific locomotives designed by Grizzly, including the famous steam locomotives Flying Scotsman, and Mallard. Mallard achieved a world record speed for a steam locomotive, at 126 miles per hour, and this record was never beaten. It made the run on the Grantham to Peterborough section, on the descent of Stoke Bank. Steam locomotives were replaced by diesel-electrics in the early 1960s, when the purpose-built Deltic locomotive was developed by English Electric. The prototype was successful and a fleet of 22 locomotives was built, to handle all the important express traffic. The Class 55s were powered by 2 engines originally developed for fast torpedo boats, and the configuration of the engines led to the Deltic name. Their characteristic throaty exhaust roar and chubby body outline made them unmistakable. The Class 55 was for a time the most powerful diesel locomotive in service in Britain, at 3,300 horsepower. Just after the Deltics were introduced, the first sections of the East Coast Main Line were upgraded to allow 100 miles per hour running. The first length to be cleared for the new higher speed was a 17-mile stretch between Peterborough and Grantham on June 15, 1965. The second was 12 miles between Grantham and Newark. As the demand for higher speed intensified, the Deltics were superseded by the high-speed train, introduced between 1976 and 1981, and still in service in 2015. A prototype of the HST, the Class 41, achieved 143 miles per hour on the line in 1973. Current UK legislation requires in-cab signalling for speeds of over 125 miles per hour, which is the primary reason preventing the Intercity 225 train sets from operating at their design speed of 140 miles per hour in normal service. A secondary factor was that the signalling technology of the time was insufficient to allow detection of two broken rails on the line on which the train was operating. Before the present in-cab regulations came in, British Rail experimented with 140 miles per hour running by introducing a fifth, flashing green signalling aspect on the down-fast line and up-fast line between New England North and Stog Tunnel. The fifth aspect is still shown in normal service and appears when the next signal is showing a green aspect and the signal section is clear, which ensures that there is sufficient braking distance to bring a train to a stand from 140 miles per hour. Locomotives have operated on the ECML at speeds of up to 161.7 miles per hour in test runs. The capability to run special test trains in excess of 125 miles per hour is listed as being maintained in the LNE sectional appendix. Electrification The ECML was electrified using 25 kV AC overhead lines in two phases between 1976 and 1991. The first phase between London and Hitchin was carried out between 1976 and 1978 as part of the Great Northern Suburban Electrification Project. This included the Hertford Loop Line. The second phase began in 1984, when authority was given to electrify to Edinburgh and Leeds. Construction began in 1985, and the section between Hitchin and Peterborough was completed in 1987. Doncaster and York were reached in 1989. By 1990 electrification had reached Newcastle, and in 1991 Edinburgh. At the peak of the electrification project during the late 1980s, it was claimed to be the longest construction site in the world at over 250 miles. The current Intercity 225 rolling stock was introduced in 1990 to work the electrified line. Infrastructure: the line is mainly 4 tracks from London to Stoke Tunnel, south of Grantham. However, there are 2 major twin-track sections. The first of these is near Welwyn North Station as it crosses the Dykeswell Viaduct and passes through 2 tunnels. The second is a section around Stilton Fen, between Fletton Junction near Peterborough, and southwards towards Home Junction. Furthermore, the section between Home Junction south to Huntingdon is mostly triple-track. North of Grantham the route is twin-track except for 4-track sections at Retchford around Doncaster, between Colton Junction, Thirsk and North Ellerton, and another at Newcastle. The main route is electrified along the full route and only the line between Leeds and York is non-electrified. This diversionary route will be electrified as part of the Transpennine electrification scheme, to be completed by December 2018. With mostly of the line rated for 125 miles per hour operation, the ECML was the fastest main line in the UK until the opening of High Speed 1. These relatively high speeds are possible because much of the ECML travels on fairly straight track on the flatter, eastern regions of England, through Lincolnshire and Cambridgeshire, though there are significant speed restrictions particularly north of Darlington and between Doncaster and Leeds. By contrast, the West Coast Main Line has to traverse the Trent Valley and the mountains of Cumbria, leading to many more curves and a lower general speed limit of 110 miles per hour. Speeds on the WCML have been increased in recent years with the introduction of tilting pendolino trains and now match the 125 miles per hour speeds available on the ECML. Rolling stock Most express passenger services use the Intercity 225 rolling stock. Some diesels still operate online, including Cross Country's Class 220 Voyagers, Class 221 Super Voyagers and, occasionally, HST sets that Cross Country introduced after it took over from Virgin Cross Country. Hull Trains Class 180 Adlants, Virgin Trains East Coast HST sets work to Inverness and Aberdeen, as well as daily services to Lincoln, Hull and Harrogate. East Midlands Trains operates a limited service of HSTs over a portion of the route between Doncaster and Leeds, and a summer Saturday service with Class 222 meridians from York and Scarborough to London St Pancras, and back. Grand Central's HSTs and Class 180 Zephyrs. Operators. The line's current principal operator is Virgin Trains East Coast, whose services include regular trains between King's Cross, the East Midlands, Yorkshire, the northeast of England and Scotland. Virgin Trains East Coast is jointly operated by Stagecoach Group and Virgin Group and took over from East Coast on March 1, 2015. Other operators of passenger trains on the line are, Great Northern, long-distance services between King's Cross, Peterborough, Cambridge and Kings Lynn and commuter services between Moorgate and Stevenage via either Welwyn Garden City or the Hertford Loop. Hull Trains, operates 6 trains per day between King's Cross and Hull and 1 per day between King's Cross and Beverley on weekdays, whilst on weekends there are 7 trains a day between King's Cross and Hull. East Midlands Trains, local services between Grantham and Peterborough, part of the service that runs between Liverpool Lime Street and Norwich, as well as infrequent services between London York and Scarborough, extensions of services running to from Sheffield, Leicester and London St Pancras. Cross Country services north of Sheffield are routed via either Leeds or Doncaster. Leeds trains use the ECML between Wakefield Westgate and Leeds and then again north of York. Doncaster trains use the ECML north of Doncaster. Services run to and beyond Edinburgh. Occasional services run from Doncaster to Leeds before rejoining the ECML at York. First TransPennine Express, between Liverpool Lime Street and Newcastle, also between Manchester Airport and Middlesbrough before they divert off the ECML to Middlesbrough via Yarm. Northern Rail, suburban services from Doncaster to Leeds and Chat Hill to Newcastle via Morpeth Railway Station and infrequent services between Newcastle and Darlington that continue to Middlesbrough and Saltburn. Services between Selby and York also use the line from Hambleton Junction to York. Abellio ScotRail, services from Edinburgh Waverley to North Berwick and Dunbar. The overnight Caledonian Sleeper occasionally uses the ECML when engineering works prevent it from using its normal train path on the WCML. Grand Central, Intercity operate 5 daily services between King's Cross and Sunderland, branching off the main line at Northallerton. And 4 daily services between King's Cross and Bradford, branching off at Doncaster. Eurostar previously held the rights to run 5 trains a day on the line for services from continental Europe to cities north of London, as part of the regional Eurostar plan, although such services have never been run. DB Schenker, First GBRF, Freightliner Heavy Haul and Direct Rail Services operate freight services. Development Capacity problems The ECML is one of the busiest lines on the British rail network and there is currently insufficient capacity on parts of the line to satisfy all the requirements of both passenger and freight operators. There are bottlenecks at the following locations: the section of twin track within a 4-line section at Welwyn North over the Dykeswell Viaduct and through the Welwyn tunnels, the twin and triple track sections located between Huntingdon and Peterborough. Just north of Newark Station at a flat crossing with the Nottingham to Lincoln line. The section of double track between Stoke Tunnel and Doncaster. Doncaster Station has limited facilities for terminating branch trains on the upside of the station. This is to be remedied with the opening of a new platform on the upside so that trains to and from the Thorn direction will be able to deconflict their arrivals and departures with high-speed trains. The north throat of York Station including Skelton Bridge Junction. South of Newcastle to Northallerton, leading to proposals to reopen the Leamside line to passenger and freight traffic. Rail services are vulnerable during high winds and there have been several derailments over the years due to the unusually wide spacing between the supporting masts of the overhead lines. The other cost-cutting measure was the use of headspan catenary support systems over the quadruple-track sections, which are not as robust as the older Portal and TTC-type designs used on the WCML. This was a result of extreme pressure from the Department for Transport to reduce avoidable costs when the line was originally electrified between 1985 and 1990. Recent developments The Allington Chord was constructed near Grantham in 2006, allowing services between Nottingham and Skegness to call at Grantham without having to use the ECML, trains now passing under the line. This provided sufficient extra capacity for 12 additional services between Leeds and London each day. A new platform at London King's Cross was opened on May 20, 2010. This was originally to be called Platform Y. Instead it has been named Platform 0 to avoid confusion of lettered and numbered platforms. At the southern end of York Station, a short length of fourth track was installed in early 2011 at Holgate Junction with accompanying alley and signalling systems. This work helped to remove one of the bottlenecks on the East Coast Main Line. Previously, trains from Leeds would sometimes have to wait before entering the station. The improvement allows for better flow of trains in and out of the station. Provision of a grade-separated junction to the north of Hitchin enabling down Cambridge trains to cross the main line. The work was completed by June 26, 2013. Major remodelling of Peterborough station was completed during early 2014, providing 3 platform faces for services in the up direction towards London and 2 for ECML services travelling north on the down lines. An additional 2 platform faces are also available for cross-country services to and from stations to the east of Peterborough. A new flyover just south of Joancroft level crossing in South Yorkshire to allow freight trains from Immingham to pass over the line on their way to Eggborough and Drax power stations, was completed in very early 2014. The project, known as the North Doncaster Chord, also replaced the level crossing on a minor road with a new overbridge just to the north of the original crossing point. Renewal and gauge enhancement of the Great Northern and Great Eastern Line, which runs parallel to the ECML between Peterborough and Doncaster. This removes freight traffic from a heavily congested section of the ECML. A new rail operating centre, with training facilities, opened in early 2014 at the Engineers Triangle in York. The ROC will enable signalling and day-to-day operations of the route to be undertaken in a single location. Signalling controlled traffic management using ERTMS is scheduled to be introduced from 2020 on the ECML between London King's Cross and Doncaster, managed from the York ROC. An £8.6 million redevelopment of Newcastle Central Station was completed in 2014, enhancing the existing station and provide a state-of-the-art station for thousands of passengers. Planned or proposed developments Over the years, successive infrastructure managers have developed schemes for route improvements. The most recent of which is the £240 million ECML Connectivity Fund included in the 2012 HLOS with the objective of increasing capacity and reducing journey times. Current plans include the following: connection of the ECML to Champs Link as part of the Champs Link programme. Full reversible signalling over the Stilton Fen section, power supply upgrades between Wood Green and Bawtry to Edinburgh, including some overhead line support improvements, rewiring of the contact and catenary wires, and headspan to portal conversions. Requadrupling of the route between Huntingdon and Woodvilleton, which was rationalised in the 1980s, power supply enhancement on the diversionary Hertford Loop route, level crossing closures between King's Cross and Doncaster. As of July 2015, this will no longer be conducted as a single closure of 73 level crossings, but conducted on a case-by-case basis. Additional down platform and turn-back facility at Stevenage, now removed from programme. Additional turn-back facility at Gordon Hill. Provision of a new up-bay platform at Doncaster Station. This is currently under construction. Enhanced passenger access to the platforms at Peterborough and Stevenage, further remodelling at Peterborough and linear speed enhancements on the Downslow line in the Fletton area, modified North Throat at York Station to reduce congestion for services calling at platforms 9 to 11, increasing maximum speeds on the fast lines between Womer Green and Dalton-on-Tees up to 140 miles per hour in conjunction with the introduction of the Intercity Express program, level crossing closures, ETRMS fitments, or rewiring and the LAPSU, is to cost £1.3 billion. This project is referred to as L2E4, or London to Edinburgh 4 hours, and is currently under development. L2E4 examines the operation of the IEP at 140 miles per hour on the ECML in the sections of track which can be upgraded to permit this, together with the engineering and operational costs. Remodelling north of Peterborough to provide a new grade-separated junction at Warrington to allow freight services to join or be diverted off the ECML to from the GNGE without crossing all 4 tracks at level. Network Rail's preferred option is for a dive-under. Upgrading of the fast lines at Shaftholme Junction from 100 miles per hour to 125 miles per hour. Replacement of the flat crossing at Newark with a flyover. The line between London King's Cross to the approach of Doncaster will be signalled with Level 2 ERTMS. The target date for operational ERTMS services is December 2018 with completion in 2020. Darlington Station up fast line platform, fitment of stabilizers and gauging structure works proposed by the open operator GNER to support its aspirations for express 3 hours 43 minutes London to Edinburgh services. Tilt would be required north of Darlington for Pendolino trains. Accidents. The ECML has been witness to a number of incidents resulting in death and serious injury. Level crossings. Passenger volume. Popular culture. The cuttings and tunnel entrances just north of King's Cross make a memorable smoky appearance in the 1955 Ealing comedy film The Ladder Killers. Also during the 1950s, the line featured in the 1954 documentary short Elizabethan Express. Later, the 1971 British gangster film Get Carter features a journey from London King's Cross to Newcastle in the opening credits. The motoring show Top Gear featured a race including Alan ERA 160163 Tornado running up this line from London to Edinburgh. The route has been featured in several train simulator games. Trains Simulator 2010 features the route between London and York, Trains Simulator 12 extends the route to Newcastle, and Trains, A New Era brings it all the way to Edinburgh, allowing the entire 393-mile route to be driven. All 3 routes take place during the 1970s, around the time the Intercity 125 was introduced. This is reinforced by instructions in the HST southbound express session not to move until the guard has locked the doors, since the trains did not have pneumatic locks initially. Doing so will lead to an automatic failure. Other rolling stock includes Class 37s, Class 47s, and Class 105s, plus Mark II coaches. TS12's version added Class 55 Deltics and Class 313s, as well as additional pre-made, pre-scripted sessions. King's Cross is also known as the starting point of the Hogwarts Express from the books and films in the Harry Potter series. Within the station concourse there is a tourist attraction of the Platform 9 3/4 sign and a luggage trolley partially embedded in the station wall with an owl cage and suitcases on it. References